All right. So thank you very much. I'm going to try to be brief. We only have like around 15 minutes for you to learn everything about data visualization so that you can become experts on the field after that, which I'm not sure we're going to achieve it in such a short time, but I want to give you a little bit of what I found awesome about data visualization. And I don't think, there's so many tools out there, and I didn't want to go through the tools because I don't think the tools is what matters. And let me give you just one quick example. I spoke with a couple of hotel companies lately, and I asked them, do you use data visualization? And they all said to me, yeah, we have a really cool tool. It's called Cognos. And I said, okay, what have you done with it? Oh, we just have it there. And I thought, really? It's like, you're paying like a fortune for Cognos. I was like, yeah, but we don't have anyone who can deal with it. So I was like, okay, then that's cool. Then I said, why you didn't buy just Excel? Excel does pretty cool. You can put Solver on top of it, and you almost can do data mining. You can do almost anything with Solver in Excel, and the graphics are not bad. So why spend so much money on buying these products? But I'll explain you why. So the first thing is, the brain is amazing. We're awesome. And why is it amazing? Because it's specialized in recognizing shapes and patterns, right? Now these, if you look at it in megabytes, now let's get a bit geeky, just give credit to Jay here. We can transfer a lot of information through the data, but if I'm showing you here 8.96 megabytes, does that tell you a lot? It looks cool in my slide, right? Because it looks like a lot of megabytes, but probably your router at home can do better than our own brain. Now this is because the connection between the brain and the eyes is really, really fast. But if you would be trying to do the same by reading, you can only do like 120 words per minute, which is around 81.6 kilobytes. Now, I gave you these two pieces of information. Now, which one is faster? Reading or the eyes by looking at images? I gave you the two pieces. The first one was the eyes, the second one is by reading. What was bigger and what was the difference? Can you tell me? Eyes. A lot or just a little bit? A lot. Okay, so that's great because that's actually what data visualization should be doing. I shouldn't have to show you these other 4 slides where I wasted your time. Because I could have shown you just one single slide where I could have shown you that there is such a difference between one way and the other way that the brain is capturing information. Now, data visualization is such a key element because the brain captures data very well. Now, most of the change management structures in the world are done through data visualization. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. So we are not wired to read fast. We are wired to visualize fast. That's the way our brain is really done. And I don't know if you guys have seen it. Anyone has kids here? Raise your hands, yeah, okay. Does your kids play Minecraft? Okay. And where did they learn to build these incredible structures? In YouTube, right? They learn everything from YouTube. And they are freaking awesome. They create worlds in 3D with multiple materials, multiple dimensions, and they're sometimes 4 years old. That's because the brain is really good at using these type of things. Now, there are 5 fundamental ways that we use data visualization. Now, but let's go back to the initial fundamental is, why do we need it? Why do you guys think we need data visualization? I could show you lots of Excel files, and they're awesome too. Why? I just gave you the answer before. Come on, don't be mean with me. That's right, because we can process the data really quickly. And not only that, but you can convince people of things that you could never convince them by showing them an Excel file, right? So we can use data to analyze, we can use data to discover, to support a story, to tell a story, and to teach. And this part of story is really the key word. Data is about telling a story, and to who are you talking with the story is fundamental. Yeah, if you're talking to your CEO, it's one story. It's the same data. If you're talking to your team, it's another story. If you're talking to your owners, it's a different story. And you need to plan to who you're talking to. Otherwise, the story goes wrong. And you will never get your budgets approved, by the way. So now data visualization at the end is the end result of all this research from people who are doing data mapping and data mining and data scientists. All that needs to convert into something, and that's data visualization. So I'm just, in this place where I'm trying to talk to you about data visualization, I'm just a complement of all the presentation that Jay has given you, right? He was talking to you about how do you create these clusters, how you use cohort analysis. All that sounds amazing, and algorithms and great. No one knows what the hell I'm talking about. But you will understand graphs. You will understand if I give you different dimensions in the graphs. Now, data visualization is the art and science of making data easy to understand and consume for the end user. That's the definition you guys need to take with you about data. Now, let me talk to you a little bit about change management. And this is a super important thing. And I just been to INSEAD last week in a change management course. And one of the first things that they told me in INSEAD was when Hewlett-Packard was trying to launch their printer, one of their very strong printers, and they did a market research, and the market research came back and said that people in the market wanted to have printers that were cheaper and that were faster in the market. So they went back to their engineers and said, hey guys, we have this incredible research about building printers that are cheaper. And the printers, the engineers and the CEOs and the COOs came back and said, no, that's impossible because what people want is strong printers. They want them robust, they want them to last forever. So we can't make them so cheap. But the market was supporting that there was a demand for this product. But we as organizations, we tend to be never to listen what the market is actually telling us. So there was no way they could prove to the engineers that this was something that needed to change. Now, what do you think that made Hewlett-Packard change? I mean, you should know it, no? A guy who was the head of marketing of Hewlett-Packard decided that he needed to visualize for the people the difference between the products. So he grabbed the printer, he put it in front of them, he stand up in his printer, and he said, should a printer be able to hold a 90-kilo person so that I can reach a book in my shelf? And suddenly the engineers and everybody in the room said, probably not. Probably a printer should print. And it shouldn't be so strong to hold people. So he was able to transform an entire concept that drove Hewlett-Packard to the future thanks to showing and visualizing something that seems so simple that transformed the entire organization. Now, this goes as well to, when I wanted to make a case in my organization, we're a quite stubborn organization. And I wanted to say to them, we need to do click-to-chat. Everybody's doing it. It's really cool. Let's do it. And they were like, no, it's too expensive. Who's going to do it? No, it's just never going to work. But when we anyway did it, because we're really stubborn, we showed then the results, and we said, in 9 months, we missed maybe 4.7 people, but we had 20,000 chats. We responded in 52 seconds, and we made $9 million in revenue. I could have shown a whole list of stats in Excel where I had all the data that I was showing that we produced to actually come out with these results. But the only thing my CEO wants to see is, did it work or didn't it work? Did you make the money or you didn't make the money? And so that's what I want to show him. But my team don't want to see this. My team want to see the detail. How did we do that? How many? Which countries? So data visualization is about understanding to who you're presenting and what action you want out of it. So the action I wanted out of this is give me more money because I want to build even a bigger center for click-to-chat. Now, this is a little case study that I'm taking actually from Brian and Kasiri that you have behind from the revenue management team. And this is something where we managed to transform the way Miner thinks, thanks to data. And when Ryan arrived first to Miner, he introduced ideas as part of revenue management strategy. And the one thing he pulled out of ideas was pace charts, right? These pace charts here that you see here for June and May, right? And the blue line is last year, and then on the books is the orange data, right? So suddenly he was able to explain tons of data to people in the hotels about the pace of the bookings that were coming to their hotels just with 2 lines. And suddenly GMs were able to analyze this data with just one single graph and say, okay, we're not doing very well in June because the pace doesn't look like it should be, instead of having to have all these other reports. Now, in addition to that, he was able to then bring it down to the level of retail benchmark, corporate, wholesale, and then he was able to do it month by month to know where they're not performing. Do you know what that created? An entire new culture where suddenly GMs felt empowered and felt that they could actually know where they needed to take the actions. Because before having these type of graphs, they didn't know where to act. They were just thinking, we need more business. Call the salespeople, we need more business. Call wholesalers. Wholesalers need to do something about it. Now they were able to say, actually, we're doing pretty well in May for wholesale, but what we need is more corporate. So this has completely changed the way we work in Minor, because now we don't think what it should be, but we actually look at the data and we act upon the data. Now, I'm going to quote this, data not equal to information, and that is really key. The fact that you have a lot of data means nothing if actually nobody can translate that data into something that someone can do something about it. So revenue managers, e-commerce managers, many times we come back to our general managers or our CEOs with a list of data, and we're like, look, look. And they're like, and? Like, what do you want me to do with that, right? And it's our own mistake, because we are not focusing on what they need. And that's why I think data is not equal to information. I stole this from Brian, actually, just that he knows that he's the one who said it. And now, I put here a lot of tools out there, right? Because this is about data visualization, right? Now, how many of you have used any of these tools? Can you raise your hands? So I have a couple of people who have used Tableau. Is it Tableau the main one? Yeah? Okay. So Tableau seems to be the... So I tell you something. These tools are awesome. You can do incredible things with it. But they're useless if you don't have someone in the back actually crunching the numbers and doing the mapping and doing the mining. So if you don't have a data scientist or you can't afford one, there's other ways to do it. There's companies who sell third-party data scientists who actually work for you, but they work as like, they resell them. But otherwise, don't use it. The tools are cheap as hell. Nowadays, they're really, really cheap. For $25 a month, you can get a Tableau in your computer, right? So it's really, really cheap nowadays. But if you don't have it, then don't use it. You know what I still think some companies should only be using? Is Excel. To be sincere, with Excel, you almost achieve the same results if you don't have the capacity to have a person actually doing the job for you. And Excel is awesome. Those who say they don't like Excel, don't talk to me, because it's really awesome. Now, there's a lot of other tools, as you can see here. Microsoft has his tool, Plotly is great. Beneath, I have put a couple of articles about Forbes, and they describe each one of the different tools if you are interested in knowing a little bit more about them. Now, the thing is, who should be doing this job? I heard before you were saying revenue managers should be doing this job. You think it's revenue managers? No? No? Who should be doing this job? E-commerce managers? No? Who? Everyone should be doing this job? So everyone should be, their entire organization should be focused on how to represent data and how to use data more accurately. I also think that is true. And actually, I was very impressed before when Emily was saying that Accor managed to change a lot of these whole process of preferences and how to educate people, right? Because the hard job in an organization, even if you have 3 hotels, even if you have 2 hotels, is how do you change people's behavior, not about the tools. So if Accor has changed their behavior of their people, respect, because changing behavior in an organization is the biggest challenge of any organization. So that's why I believe actually most organizations need to start having a people who does data science for them if you can afford it. within your group, because it's getting really, really complicated. I tried doing some of it, and it gets really, really crazy very quickly. Now, just to show you some of the main things you need to consider when thinking about data visualization is the tools that are out there now can do mobile, iPad, computer, and why you need that? You need to consider that as an important factor. Where are you spending most of the time nowadays? In your mobile phone. So data visualization needs to be available on your mobile phone. If the tool you want to buy doesn't have that capability, then don't buy it. Here I have a little example of Tableau, so that you can see. This is just a graph on how much revenue is contributed annually by each customer during a cohort analysis. And the main thing here is that the revenue gets stacked for the following year so that you can know how much revenue you've done from the same group from the previous years, right? Now, the main thing here is that it's dynamic, right? So I can change the market segments and I get different reports all the time. This is another huge requirement of the new data visualizations. You want data to be dynamic. You don't want it anymore just to be a static one-time report. And that's the things that Excel does pretty badly at it, right? And you can still do it, but it's not as good at it. The second thing Excel can do is, once you pass 200 variables in a cohort analysis, actually Excel cracks and says to you, ciao, and it turns off. And then you need to use R or Python or any of the other languages that you can do for that. Now, something else you need to be doing here is the new way of reporting, and what people are expecting is if you tell me, oh, there is demand for these countries, and the first question I get from my CEO is like, but what about Thailand? And I'm like, yeah, but that's not in that report. Oh, I don't care. I'm asking you, what about Thailand? So then you need to allow reports to be able to be flexible so that when I click in Thailand, boom, I get a report. And that's why Tableau is so much better. That's why these other tools, BI, whatever other brand you want to use of BI can do, which not many other brands can do. Now, I have put here some really simple best practices of reporting for you guys. Maybe they're too simple, but I just thought that sometimes we forget these things. And I put a little bit of an example about what we do wrong with bar charts. So the first thing I want to ask you is you see a lot of reports with people putting January, February, March horizontal. Please don't do that. Don't do that again. No one can read that. It's a bad practice. Secondly, when you put bar charts and you leave so much space between them, also don't do that, because then you can't actually see the relationship between the different months or the different pieces of the data. If you're putting an axis which is not at zero value, people can't understand the difference. So you actually have to try to start at zero. So it's simple things, but I have catch myself doing. Use of colors, be careful with the use of colors. Sometimes we use so many colors in the data, but changing colors means you're trying to say that something is different, right? But if it's not, then why are you using colors? Just because you think it looks cool is not enough for it to need colors. And lastly, try to order data appropriately. Now, I am dyslexic to a maximum level of dyslexia that you can get, so I don't actually see order. But for people who actually are not dyslexic, like Brian, for example, he sees a list and he's like, oh, this is terrible, man. It's not in order. Why is it not alphabetically correct? And I'm thinking, I didn't even realize about that. But it depends on the type of mindset or personality you have, right? Now, pie charts. If you have a pie chart and the values are more than 5 categories in a pie chart, that means you should not use a pie chart, because no one cares about the 15 other categories that are only 1%. You should focus only on the things that actually add any value. And if you use 2 pie charts in the same graph, that's like really nonsense, because you actually not understand anything what is in the graph. So please don't use those ones either. Make sure that the data adds up to 100. I've been in so many presentations where people present me pie charts and the data adds to 150. And I'm not joking. I'm not joking. Brian has seen this type of presentation. I think I even did it myself. And it's, once people cannot add the numbers, they actually immediately think, oh, your data is fake, or your data is wrong. So then they don't take you serious. Fake news. So you have to be careful with those things because they seem like nothing, but they mean everything if you're trying to pass a message. Well, the last thing, line charts. Same thing, include 0 in the baseline. And please don't plot more than 4 lines in the same line. No one can get them. No one is like, sincerely, probably you've seen them too and you think, oh man, this is a mess. But anyway, I'm just going to put it in the presentation. Just don't do it. And using solid lines only is the best practice because people don't understand what you're trying to say when you put little points and little dots in the presentations. Lastly, and this is something I catch myself doing all the time, which is label the lines directly, is that I always label them with colors, but when you have 5 categories in it, no one knows which one is which one. And lastly, the use of right height, right? When you're using graphs, you can actually, we can influence data, right? And that's the whole thing with the statistics, and this is the whole thing with data visualization. You can do data, tell whatever story you wanted to tell, right? You can make it longer and it looks like the growth is not so much. You can make it shorter and the growth seems like a lot, right? So it's all about perception, right? Because human is about perception. So just be careful with that usage of data. Lying is not terribly bad, but it's just not so good. Now, just to finish, I just want to give you a couple of books that I read to come out with this presentation, which I thought they were awesome. And initially, I didn't know much. But at the end, I knew a lot. And it was pretty awesome to be able to learn to give you this little speech. And thank you very much.